Hey everybody, how's everybody doing out there? Nice to see you. Welcome to our not casual Friday stream. We've had a really fun week here at Carbine. Launching WildStar has been insane. Hopefully everybody got to see the midnight stream where we sent Mike Donatelli and Future Man Gaming to Times Square. Had all kinds of shenanigans here in the office. I think I was wearing a scuba mask at one point, but my memory's really hazy.
I've been dreaming of Tony Danza ever since the stream. So.
Yeah, I hope we got to mail that out too. Somebody won that picture.
Wow.
But so with me today we have Chris Thomas, who's our lead software engineer, and Chad Moore, who is our creative director.
Yes.
Chris, this is your first live stream with us.
Yeah, it's actually the first time I've been on the stream.
First time you've ever been on the stream. Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about what it means to be lead software engineer?
So currently I'm in charge of our gameplay systems team, which you can think of as all of the cool things you interact with in WildStar, from the housing system to, we don't do a lot of combat, that's another part of the gameplay systems.
He's a Care Bear.
Yeah, that's true. All the PvP systems, public events, questing, achievements, raiding, all sorts of things. We make the systems that the designers can interact with to make WildStar. And also been heavily involved with the server architecture, which I think is more of the topic for today.
Absolutely. And so last night, now we've been working, since we launched, we've been working, obviously there are some issues, there's some lag issues, there's queue issues, a lot of stuff that we're working through, and we've been making some progress. Last night, we announced that, and I guess last night we also did, spin up additional servers. So we now have doubled the amount of servers that we're working with. Chris, can you talk to us a little bit about what that looks like and what it's doing for us?
Yeah, so I mean, the important thing to remember is we didn't really want to bring up servers that were completely different from the Mega servers. It really is kind of like an addition to the existing Mega server with the intention of pulling them back in together as soon as we can. The idea is to give some temporary relief to the amount of lag and queues that players are experiencing, get more players online in the short term so that we can kind of work on the more intermediate term goal of getting everybody into the single Mega server. It really was about just getting more of our really enthusiastic players on WildStar at the same time, buying us a little bit more time to work on them.
Yeah, I mean, I think, obviously it's been a frustrating situation for a lot of players out there, but I think the reality of what's happening out there is the demand for WildStar is just unbelievably huge right now, right? I mean, we were very confident, I think, going into this free-to-play transition that we were going to bring a lot of people back and bring some new players back, but I can just say personally, I have been absolutely blown away by how many new players have come, how many people want to get in and experience the game. So, for us at Carbine, obviously our number one priority is to give all of you guys who are trying to get in there the best possible experience we have. That's why Chris and the guys, the coders, are working basically around the clock right now to make that happen. But I think, the good, positive part about all of this is that the demand for WildStar, the number of people that want to play, get in there, make this a vibrant world, has just never been bigger. So we're super excited about that here at the company.
Yeah. And for the haters in chat who are like, Chris, why are you here and not fixing the servers? The answer to that question is that Chris is not the only person fixing the servers. There are dozens and dozens of engineers. There are people working nonstop, like in shifts. Mm-hmm. Like, we've got a fabulous team, and people take breaks. Absolutely. Everyone has to take breaks. Trust me, you cannot work like hours and hours and hours and still function well. So, we're making sure people get rest. We're making sure people get their time. And Chris loves live streams, and has told me many a time over a beer that he would like to come on a stream.
Mm-hmm. And absolutely, anytime.
I chatted with him in the hallway yesterday and said, "Hey, we're thinking about doing this stream," and he's like, "Oh, yes."
I think too, though, right? I think one of the other important parts of, especially when you're this close to launch, right, is just communication, right? Like for us, making sure that everybody knows what's happening, what we're doing to actually resolve some of these issues, bringing in experts, right, like Chris, who can actually talk very specifically to the issues, technically, where it makes sense. This is a really important part of a launch, right, of any game. We want to be talking to people and letting them know actually what's going on behind the scenes. So.
Yeah, and I mean, so the first 2 days, we started having a problem that we couldn't quite identify. We were working tons to figure out what the issue was because it was really affecting 3 major areas of the game. Lag in the game, which sucks. We all know lag sucks. That's why I can never win in a battleground, is because of lag.
That's not why.
Right. it's
Pap uses that excuse.
it's lag. Trust me, it's lag. I'm real good. But lag just makes the whole overall experience bad. There was also an issue where people who were creating characters would basically get stuck, and it would take a really, really, really long time to create a character, which was not the best thing for all the new people coming in who didn't have characters. And then the third thing was the queue times. And so as we're sort of looking all over the place trying to figure out what's going on, we did finally identify the problem. We identified the problem a couple days back, and the problem is one specific part of the mega server. And so we call it a daemon, right? It's like one specific process, and that process is just being taxed very heavily.
Destroyed.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
So can you talk a little bit, without getting too much into super tech?
Sure, no. I mean, so one thing you can think of are servers. Like, there isn't just like one WildStar server. There are 10 or 15 different individual processes that run WildStar in the back end. And as we scale up to a lot of players, different things will have issues at different numbers of players, obviously.
Yeah.
And
So let's talk.
It's difficult to kind of simulate that load when everybody's trying to do everything at the same time in a test environment. So
let's talk a little bit about, because we get a lot of questions. We're seeing it in chat. We've seen it on the forums about mega servers. And so, one of the questions that I hear a lot is a mega server, like, do we really have literally mega servers, or is that just like something we call them?
It's kind of like the name for like our architecture. We had like the original launch of WildStar. We had a lot of different realms that were very autonomous, and they kind of worked on their own. We said to ourselves, like, it would be a lot better experience if everybody just always play with everybody else. But there were a lot of technical hurdles that we had to go through to actually get that into place. We couldn't put every single player in WildStar in a single realm. It just would not have worked with the way we scaled up. So we started looking at, why can't we scale up past whatever concurrency we can have on that realm? And we just started breaking it apart. And eventually we got to something where we're like, hey, we think we could get literally everybody on the same realm. And we were right until we had this overwhelming response back with free-to-play, and now we have to look at it again and say, okay, well, this part needs some work, this part needs some work. And then we can go back and tackle those issues. So mega server is like an idea. It's not really a physical thing.
So I literally cannot go into name of computer store and buy a thing called mega server.
You could try. It could be pretty funny. See what they say.
Yeah, we should do that for lunch. Excuse me, I'd like 3 mega servers.
Megaservers.com.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it's an important distinction because, ArenaNet has mega servers, a few other companies have mega servers, and it's really describing this architecture that's used to help people play together. And a system of servers that is sort of an evolution of the way that servers used to work.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's so many barriers to entry when you're coming into an MMO, as far as like, well, I have to pick the right faction, I have to pick the right server, I have to pick all these things to play with my friends. And MMOs are all about being able to easily play with your friends, and mega servers just makes that easier.
Yeah. So as we've scaled up and we've hit, I mean, it's unbelievable. As Chad was saying, like an unbelievable amount of people coming in. We have what I like to call the big board. If you've seen Dr. Strangelove, you have the big board that has all the data on it in real time. And just seeing the amount of people that are hitting the server, that are in the game, that are in the queues, it's more than it was before, is one way to put it, right? And it's a lot more.
Yeah.
And so as that happened, one of the pieces of the architecture is giving us trouble. So I think the short-term solution is, if we had more servers, we would, instead of having 1, you would have 2. Like, the way that I look at it, I like to talk in analogies because I watch a lot of Star Trek. It's like if you were running a restaurant. You have the waitresses, you have the hostesses, you have the busboys, you have the cooks, you have the dishwashers, you have all these people that are making the restaurant work. And like, if there aren't enough cooks, then the food gets backed up. And so then the seating gets backed up, the hostess gets backed, everyone gets backed up, the whole restaurant starts, chugging, and you have this problem. We're kind of having that problem. That's what's causing the queue times, is we're having difficulty getting as many people in as we thought. So what we're basically doing is hiring more cooks. And so by doubling the amount of servers, we're functionally doubling the amount of people that can be on.
Yeah.
Now this is not the permanent solution.
No,
this isn't going to completely fix the problem. And honestly, we're not exactly sure how many people are coming in this weekend, because it's the weekend, right?
Yeah.
Weekends are important because people have them off. A lot of people are going to come in this weekend.
Absolutely.
So we would not be surprised if queues are long this weekend, but we're doing everything we can to improve that.
But I think to your point, right? Like we are hiring more cooks. Where we have more servers, but we are doing it in such a way that it will be easy for us to merge those back in once we've figured out the technology and resolve some of the issues that we have, right?
Yeah, I mean, part of the reason that mega servers came up last night and not a day before or 2 days before is we had this idea pretty early on, but we really needed to make sure that we execute it in a way that did not cause any pain for players, right? We didn't want to have name conflicts. We didn't want to make sure that we had a long downtime to merge the servers back together. We want to make sure that that is a seamless, very fast process. As anything, delivering a quality product is more important than just getting something out really quickly to us. So.
Absolutely. And I mean, for folks that have played other MMOs, that process when they start merging servers, it's a real painful, sad thing. People lose their names, people lose items, it takes time, there's customer service. That whole experience, I mean, I'm like shuddering thinking about it. I don't want that to happen, and none of us do, because everyone who works in this building has been playing MMOs for a long time. We've all experienced a server merger too, and we want to make sure that when we put these servers together, that it just works. And it might not. Come on, but hopefully it will.
It'll work.
He says it will. I believe it. So the way that so because we've been planning to do that the whole time. We decided, to name them Entity and Entity 2, or Jabbit and Jabbit 2.
Yeah, we really wanted players to see them as the same realm. It really, really is. It's using the same database on the back end. It is very, very much the same realm. We always had a lot of cross-realm activities as well, so you should be able to do almost anything with people from the other servers. We're also going to be having server transfers available in case you want to hop over to the new one, because it probably has a lower population initially, so you can...
Yeah, and that's important too, so right now you cannot transfer.
That's correct.
And that's because when we enabled transfers, it caused a massive crash. So we've got the fix for that, I believe.
Yes, we do have a fix for that. We're just in the process of making sure it gets tested. Once again, we don't want to just throw it out there immediately because it could cause worse issues, so it's getting tested right now.
Yeah, we test everything internal. First Chris, Jeremy, and his whole team, their whole team, writes the stuff. They come up with the solutions. Then they write it, they look at it, they yell at each other for a little while. Then they ship it off to be QA'd, looked at again, poked at and prodded at. And then we do something called a smoke test. And can you explain what that is?
Yeah, well, we go through a lot of basic scenarios that players would go through in terms of you first log in, you do your normal interactions with the game. You can't do everything in a small downtime window, so we try to do the most common things so we can catch some errors before they go live. I mean, there's always going to be things you don't catch, right? It's just the nature of it.
Absolutely. Trivia question for the audience. Do you know why it's called a smoke test? We'll tell you in a minute. Go on.
I don't even know what I was talking about anymore.
Yeah, well, we're trying to catch the things that may go wrong. And so...
No. But the goal is also to keep the downtime as short as possible, right? So there's two very competing goals. We're down for, we say 15 minutes or 30 minutes, and we're really shooting for 15 if we say 30 or whatever else it is. But we want to get our servers back up as quickly as possible, but we also want to make sure that someone doesn't log in and immediately go you guys didn't even fix anything. Why did we just have a downtime? So it's tough.
So the answer to that question is because you are checking for smoke, because where there is smoke, there is fire. The more you know.
Thanks, Omid.
Yeah.
That's great.
It's what I do.
Inspirational.
It's literally my only skill.
I think it's good to note, though, right? I mean, anyone that plays MMOs probably hears this a lot, but it's just a good point to make, which is there are just problems and issues that are going to only arise when you have hundreds of thousands of people banging away at your systems and playing your game. So, we have a very great ops team, a very great QA team. Obviously, we have a great bunch of engineers. But oftentimes, the best way to test these new changes in systems is just to get you guys in there. Usually that works out well. Sometimes it doesn't, and we just go in there and we make changes. So, I know it's frustrating. It's frustrating for us as it is for you guys. But, be confident that we are working very hard to make this the best experience we can. Yeah, and we're going to be taking some questions. We've already gotten some questions from the forums, and we're kind of going through a lot of them right now. But if you have additional questions, just put Q:" your question, which should be question, not just the words
your question, and we'll take a look and we'll try to answer as many as we can. I don't know how many we'll get through, but we'll try to answer as many as we can.
You can certainly hit us up on the forums, Reddit,
Yeah.
Twitter later, and
Absolutely.
I try to answer as many questions as I get on there. It's tough where you're trying to fix the issues too, but
Yeah.
communication is so important.
And I think that's a really good point, Chris. And what we're doing, so right now, primarily the engineers, QA, customer service, these guys are absolutely grinding on this problem. And especially I want to shout out for QA because they never get any love and they're freaking awesome and they save us all the time. But so there is sort of this sense of there's like artists and lore guys and game designers and people like that who really can't work on the problems. So Chad, in times like this, what do people on those teams do?
Well, I mean, I think for anyone that's been following our Twitter feed, we've got tons of people from both my team and the design team who are volunteering their time to get out there, talk to people that are asking questions, that have frustrations, right? They want to know what's going on. They just want to know that, hey, is someone out there actually listening to me? We are doing everything we can right now to respond to those people individually in almost every case, right? If they have something they're not sure about, we're sending them to the forums where they can get the information, or just answering them, hey, we hear you, we're working on it. We have tried, I think, as much as we can with this whole launch to just be as open and transparent and communicative about what's happening and why it's happening. And so, I'd like to give a shout out to all of the people on the teams who aren't necessarily working directly in the game and fixing bugs and issues, but are just out there and communicating with our fans, the players that are in there, and know that if you do have a question, hit us up on all of our different channels. Someone is out there, they will get back to you. But again, that is, I think, just as important as fixing the actual game itself is just us engaging our player base, making sure everyone knows that we want them to have a great experience. In the
Absolutely.
Yeah, even internally too, just the amount of support we've gotten from the other teams as well has been very, very good.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to, I'd like to give a shout out to the players out there who continue to be positive and support us. We got some free pizzas yesterday, actually, from WildStar Roleplay, which was unbelievable. I had 7 or 8 pieces myself. So
WildStar Roleplay, you basically got pizzas for Chad.
But I mean, I just want to hit that point home, right? Like, we are working super hard here at Carbine. And it is really inspiring where, despite some of the challenges that are going on out there, we still have just the greatest community. They are super supportive of us. They're working with us to make sure that we just give the best possible experience. So
Yeah.
I'm super excited about it.
One note, too, that, and we saw it a little bit at the beginning of chat. We also saw it because some of the developers tweeted out pictures like, hey, WildStar Roleplay got his pizza. Thank you so much. And we got a few fairly negative messages about that. And the one that was like, hey, don't eat pizza, work. And I just want to take a second because, we are a company, and sometimes a company feels like a big faceless company, but we're people. And we're not, no single person, no one's working 24 hours a day. We're not doing that. People need breaks. They definitely need to eat, okay? They're gonna eat some damn pizzas, it's fine. But these are the little moments, and Chris probably more than anyone knows that when you sit there looking at a screen for 6, because engineers can do this, like they can work for like 70 hours straight if they want to, but once you start doing that, after like 10, 12, 15 hours, like your value just goes way down.
Well, it's important that even if you walk away from your computer for 5, 10, 15 minutes, that really refreshes you. It's really good to kind of clear your mind from time to time. Some people need more sleep than others. I tend to not need a whole lot, so I've been pushing some pretty crazy hours. But yeah, it is really, really important to recharge because you're going to be more efficient, you're going to make fewer mistakes. Just stepping away from a problem and letting it clear out of your mind. When it comes back in your mind, it's going to come back in your mind in a different way, and it's almost like an epiphany moment.
Yeah. It's a lot like well, I always have my good ideas in the shower. I'm like they should put an alarm and a clock together. I thought of that one this morning. Patent pending. But like because when you're out of that space, you just stop for a second. It's exactly what you said. Or you go to lunch with someone who's not directly on your team and start thinking about things in different ways. It's important to take those breaks. That's where the breakthroughs come from. Honestly, the original idea for how we were going to add servers was not nearly as good as the idea we came up with, and the idea I believe came up at dinner.
Yeah, me and one of our engineers, Kevin, were sitting at dinner, just outside having a few moments, and we're like, we should totally do this. It was literally just we had stopped working for a few minutes, and it's like we can totally do this. It's really really important to have that step away from the problem. So
yeah, absolutely. And so I mean to kind of get back to where we are, right? We now have 2 servers for every server. So every PvE server is now 2 servers. Every PvP server is now 2 servers. We're planning to merge them again. But there have been a couple things. Like we said, transfers are currently down, but we're fixing that. The other issue that we're seeing a lot is that players they're loading in, like they pick their character, they load in, and then it immediately kicks them back to the character screen. And it doesn't really tell them what's going on. Yeah. So can you explain what the deal is?
Yeah, so I mean, the most important thing is we know what the issue is and we're fixing it. That's probably what most people care about. The real reason that's happening is we had an issue loading you into your character. And what that means is something went wrong. There's a lot of things that could go wrong, but we detected something went wrong, and rather than throwing you into your character in a half-loaded state or a state where you think you're missing something but you're really not, is very detrimental to your play experience. So what we do is we kick you back out. Just try again. It should work. It might take a few times. It's not an ideal experience, but it's better than loading in and being like, oh, this thing I just bought isn't there, or I'm missing my armor, or whatever else it is. So
yeah.
I mean, I jumped in this morning. I've been playing quite a bit, just enjoying that whole kind of launch experience, trying to see what people are talking about, and looking for issues right where they are. And so this morning, I went to log in, had that same issue 3 or 4 times, and I just tried it 4th time, finally loaded me in. Obviously, it's frustrating sometimes, but I think the point that Chris is making is that eventually, you will get in. The servers just need to catch up a little bit. They'll get there, and you'll get into play.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's awesome to see like all the developers we really want to play our own game too. I want to fix all these issues so that I can go back to playing WildStar 8 hours a day instead of working the extra 8 hours or whatever it is. Like we're really really heads down trying to fix these issues because we genuinely want to play a smooth experience as much as the players do too.
And it's I will say having played it quite a bit, it is just great to get in there to see all these people all over the new zones, players getting together, taking down world bosses, doing public events. It's very cool. We want to get more of you guys in there getting that experience, and we're working hard to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I guess the next thing that we should talk about is the queues. Because like we said, it's the weekend. We're expecting to see a lot more people. We've, doubled server capacity. And because of the improvements we've made to the systems, we've already kind of doubled the capacity again. So we're getting more people in the game. That said, we're getting so much demand that we expect queue times to be high. Do you have any pro tips for what we can do to help with the queues?
So one thing what I think is really cool about the queue is as soon as you get into the queue, no matter what you do, your spot is saved until it gets to the front. So you could literally start a WildStar, hop in the queue, close the client, go to the store, run a marathon, whatever it takes. If there's a long queue, come back, hop back in. Whatever position you were has moved along the queue the whole time you're gone. And then you can hop back in, as long as you didn't get to the front and lose your spot or whatever. If you disconnect, you're going to go right back to the same spot you were in the queue. You're not going to lose your spot in line. It's very important that when designing a piece of software that is frustrating people, you make it as least frustrating as possible. If you switch realms to see what the queue is on the other realm, when you come back, you didn't lose your space. You're still in the same queue. You could be in, basically, it's just designed to make sure that it's as painless as possible. If you disconnect from the game and then come immediately back in, you're going to skip the queue. You're not going to have to go back through the process. Just be quick getting back in because we're not going to hold your place forever, kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So we're trying to make it as painless as possible, but there's still going to be some pain.
And that probably also means that the queue numbers you're seeing are a little bit higher than they really are.
That is actually a very good point. Because we always hold your place in line, that doesn't actually mean that you are positioned 20,000 in the queue, because several thousand people in front of you could already be gone, but we're not going to go through and figure out if everybody's there. Plus, we're saving their spots, so it'll actually move probably a little quicker than you think.
So I'm going to go back to my restaurant analogy because I feel like that one's working here too.
Yeah, let's do that.
You go to a restaurant and there's a whole bunch of names on the list.
Yes.
They're not necessarily all staying, and sometimes
Right.
people are like, well, I'm not staying, I put my name on the list.
Absolutely.
They don't even go up and tell them, so no one crosses it off. They call the name, and after a minute, they're like, okay, well, that person's not there, next
Right.
name.
And the bigger the list, the more people that are not actually in front of you. So
I think that's cool. And, I think that over the weekend, right, we're focusing on making sure that once you're in the game, the experience is really good.
Yes.
Because we're still working on the queue thing. So patience, getting into the game, but, we're hoping that we've got the lag thing fixed and that, the play experience is really, really high. And the same goes for customer service. Customer service, much like the game, has, seen increased demand. I feel like we can say we're seeing 10 to 20 to 100 times demand on pretty much every service we have. We're getting a tweet like every 5 seconds. There've been over 10,000 people on the forums like almost any time. It's crazy. And so just have some patience with customer service. We're working through it, getting through the queues as well. And so I think that's a good look at what the weekend's going to be like. It's we're hoping that we're not going to be taking the server down too many times. We're still going to be working on things, but we really want to have a good play experience, especially in peak North American and EU time.
Yeah.
So, the next thing for me that we get a lot of questions about, because people are tweeting out pictures of something called the War Room, and then we see well, what is a War Room? What does that mean? And that made me think what is the overall process at this company? And it's really this way at most MMO companies. When you're launching a game, what does it look like?
I mean, so for us, the War Room is basically our, center of operations, right, for everything having to do with WildStar. There's multiple monitors that are, in the War Room that are showing our servers, how many players are on them at any given time, how many players are in the queue. We've got a whole monitor that's set up for Twitter feed, other social media streams, right? How many people are we reaching out to? What is the impact that we're having with the messages that we're putting out there? It's very cool, right? I mean, you were talking a little bit earlier, Omid. It's sort of like, mission control for Apollo 13.
Yeah, have you seen that movie, right?
Yeah, right, and it's very much that way, right? All of the major what we call the major stakeholders for the teams that are involved in this. You've got operations in there, you've got production in there, you've got dev in there. You've got engineering, obviously, who are very central to many of the things that are happening. And we have, hourly, sometimes even more frequent meetings amongst those people where we're talking about things. How are the servers doing? What kind of fixes are coming up in the next maintenance? All of these things that are super important and require a really unique set of communication devices, and all of us are in there and making sure that we're on the same page before anything happens. So it's very exciting. It can be hectic sometimes, but it is vital to making sure that your MMO runs correctly and that everyone is on the same page.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really cool because it's not just one room. There's room, because we're in multiple buildings here on multiple floors, and so there's different rooms in different buildings, different teams sort of doing all their specialties. It's super, super cool to just see everybody,
Yeah, there's like a standing conference call, right? That's literally on 24 hours a day. So at any given time, if the team that's over here on this side wants to talk to the team on the other side, they just kind of yell out "Hey, who's in there?" And then you start a conversation. It's pretty exciting to watch. Like I said, it can be hectic, at times frightening, right? There's so many things that are going on. But when everyone's in sync and good things are happening, it's just the greatest feeling. So
yeah,
it's cool to be a part of it.
And around in the publishing area, a bunch of people have the call on at their desk. So pretty much anywhere you walk around, it's almost like there's this announcement, going on. It's like, is anyone from community on? And then you just run over. It's like, whose phone is that? Yeah, I'm here. It's super cool. It's this really high energy kind of intense experience. And we've got a lot of veterans. We've also got a lot of people that are shipping their first game, and it's cool to kind of just see the energy and see the passion that people take for this. And then so I think the next thing is we want to get to the questions. So we're going to try to get through as many of these questions as we can, but we do want to get Chris back to work. So people are asking questions, just more detail on server transfers. And like we said, we're going to open up free server transfers, at least for a little while, because this is one of the things we plan to charge for in free-to-play. Oh, Towley just texted me. Hi, Towley. But this is one of the parts of our business model, so it won't be free forever, but we just wanted to make sure people don't get stuck on Jabbit when their friends are on Jabbit too, or vice versa.
Absolutely.
Can you talk about how server transfer works and how it's going to work here?
Yeah, well, I mean, so you put yourself into a queue. There's some restrictions. I think there's a website, I can't remember off the top of my head, that tells you exactly what you need to do to your character to make them transfer eligible. Stuff like clearing out your mail. There's a few other things to make it go.
If you're a guild leader, I think you have to disband the guild or leave the guild.
Yeah, there are some things that aren't going to transfer over correctly, and if your guild is on one server, it's probably easier to have other people transfer into that to join the guild that way, that sort of thing. There is a very comprehensive FAQ about it, so I won't go into all the details there. But suffice to say, you put yourself in the transfer queue, you wait however long it takes, depending on the demand, and then you will magically show up on the other server completely intact. We've had this technology for quite a while. It just got used a lot less as we had mega servers, so there was a bug in it when we turned it back on this morning, so we're fixing that, and we're going to get it back out as soon as we can.
Yep. That's cool. And I think there's like a 7-day cooldown on it, so it's not like you can transfer.
Yeah, it is.
There's a 7-day cooldown. It's mostly related to like raiding and stuff, so you can't just bounce around and keep raiding and stuff, because,
Well, that's the next question. Can you raid? And I think what that question means is, can you raid, like, if between entity and entity 2?
So, not currently. And honestly, like, the technology exists where you totally could, because we can do cross-server dungeons, we do cross-server raids. We were actually planning to do it at one point, then we got mega servers, and we're like, well, we don't really need to anymore. But totally hit up time travel if you ever want that, probably. But it's totally doable, but we haven't done it yet.
Yeah. And so another question, and I know this is a hard one to answer, like there's, we don't have a perfect answer, is what is the estimated time frame before we put the servers together?
So at this point, we have the plan in terms of like what we need to do to the mega server to make it scale properly again. I don't think putting an exact timeline on it is a good idea, because while I might say it might take a week to code up and a week to test, we really don't know at this point till it's done and tested. And I want to put the stress on the tested part for this, because anytime we're making a large architectural change, we want to really, really, really put it through the ringer, make sure it does scale how we think it will, make sure there's no bugs with it. The worst thing we could do is merge servers back together and they still don't work right. Like that would be like bad.
Yeah.
So we really want to make sure that we get it right. So at this point, we're just working as hard as we can to get it done, and we'll provide updates as we get closer.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's really important. The reason that we spun additional servers up is to address this problem, in a short-term sense.
Absolutely.
And so the first thing we have to do before we decide to put the servers together is finish addressing the problem. Once the problem is addressed and we feel comfortable with that, then that conversation about when do we put these together makes a lot more sense. Because as long as that problem is out there, we don't want to go back, because that's where we were 2 days ago, and we saw sort of the stress and strain that was related to that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just good to remember that everything that we do is just about maintaining or improving player experience, right? So any big change like that, obviously, is something that we're going to go into very carefully to make sure that players either have the same experience or something that's significantly better.
Yeah, and I think it's important to remember too, like right now while we're in the moment, every minute feels like, a month, and everything is really intense, but MMOs are a long-term thing. The longest running MMOs are almost 20 years old at this point. We're not looking at this as something we're not looking at WildStar as a game that is a week long. We're playing months, years, that sort of thing. Right now fixing this stuff is super, super important, and we're really focused on it. But it's going to be fixed, and we're going to get to the state that we want. We're going to have the mega servers we want. The demand that we're seeing is super, super encouraging, and we really appreciate the patience from everybody and the support from everybody. But yeah, like it's a long game.
Sure.
MMOs are a long game, so we're getting there. So one of the things I think people want to chat a little bit about the login loops a little bit more, and that's bouncing back on the character thing.
Sure.
Can you talk about like a little more detail about how that's happening, or what people can do or what people should do?
The ones where you get stuck logging into the game, bounce back to character, or whatever.
Because I think for some people they're feeling like it's happening a lot. It's not just like try again, but it's 10 times, 20 times.
Yeah, definitely. At some point, there are a lot of technical reasons happening. It's hard not to go into those. That's how my brain thinks about it. But to the player, during high times of demand, it's more likely to happen. I will say that. And as more people get it stuck in that loop, it's more likely to happen. But yeah, I mean, just keep trying. It will go through. I don't know when we're going to have the fix for that, but I hope we're going to have something coded up today. When it deploys and all that is kind of out of my hands. I make the fix, and then other people talk about when it goes out. So.
Yeah, I think it's also like one thing that I always find funny is when we talk internally, we'll say something like, I don't know when we're going to have the fix, but then if you really push and say like, okay, but what do you really think? It's like, oh, today. And you're like, whew, because I don't know when we're going to have the fix. Sounds like
15 minutes.
Yeah, in the year 2525,
Yes,
but
my goal is always fix it as fast as possible and as correct as possible, and then we'll talk about getting out live. So.
Yeah, and to me it seems similar, like a lot of the issues that we're seeing are kind of similar in that the more people are doing it, the worse the issue gets.
Yeah.
It's the same for the queues, it's the same for the character create when that was, before we fixed that, that was fine if it was the middle of the night and you were like the only person creating a character, it pretty much went right through.
Yep.
But when you've got thousands of people doing it all at once, then again, not enough cooks. And, and it just got slow. And so I think the loop is the same thing.
So with the character creation issue is also largely fixed as well. And the loop back to character create after you enter the world, we have made some improvements to that. It's just not entirely fixed yet. So.
Yeah, and so one question is, without any kind of transfers, how does opening new servers help relieve the stress? And this is something that I actually wanted to ask a little earlier, it just didn't come up, is how do we choose who goes on Entity versus Entity 2?
Right, so you might notice when you log into WildStar, it's going your first time or your 50th time, it's going to default you to a realm. If you've played before, it's going to put you on the realm that you last logged into. If you've not played before, we're going to divert you to the lowest, or one of the lower population realms available. That is PvE. We're not going to throw new players on a PvP server. It's more of an opt-in experience.
Hey, what's going on?
The PvP server's like, send the dudes onto our server, let's do that. But no, we're going to send you to the lower population PvE server. So the brand new players that have never played WildStar before are very likely to end up on Entity 2. But you can always go up to the top of the realm, select at the top of the character screen, and choose what realm you want to play on, obviously. We try to let you know that if you've never played WildStar before, I think we have like a little pilot that says, hey, we chose a realm for you, but like go up here and make sure you're going where your friends are.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good, it's a good tip if you aren't necessarily trying to hook up with someone specific that's already on, let's say, Entity 1, but you've already logged into that, you may want to consider jumping to Entity 2, just more than likely it's going to be lower population.
Yep. Yeah, I think right now we're seeing that the Entity 2, Jabbit 2 are lower population. They're still in pretty high demand, but I think just because like the existing players are defaulting to that one, it is a little slower. But again, this is a solution that spun up last night, and this will all start balancing out. I think pretty quickly. One question is, I have 2 of my 2 allowed characters made on Entity. If a new realm opens, how do I create characters somewhere else? And I know the answer to this if you don't.
I know the answer too.
The character caps were per realm, aren't they? Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Make sure. That was like softball. Yeah, no, you can have 2 characters per realm.
Yeah.
So I guess if you had 2 and 2, when we merge them back, you'll have 4.
Yeah.
So
and what we're looking at now is that, and so this is great because we're charging for character slots.
Yeah.
So basically everyone's getting some bonus character slots.
That is actually a very, very good point.
Yeah. We were talking about
that's what I was wondering. Can I say that?
Yeah. And I mean, the important thing is that this is kind of a nice thing. It was not intended, but it's just the only way to make it work.
Absolutely.
So if you have like a full 12 character slots for the people that bought the box, you now have 24
You can-
characters.
you can
You
actually
can have
exceed that limit,
24 character slots.
And we do have some characters from the old Mega Server merge accounts that have like literally like 100 characters on the account.
Yeah.
So it's yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I believe that we're doing it so that, if you don't use them, it'll go down. So, if you don't have characters in the slots, it'll go back down to the normal
Right.
amount.
Yeah, once you delete characters, you will lose that slot. But
So don't delete those characters. But yeah, I mean, it's just sort of one of the consequences of how we do this, but it's good for people
I was
because
about to
people get
say,
more
in
character
one
slots.
of these ways, that this consequence is a perk, which is good.
absolutely,
Yeah,
you know,
yes.
always nice when you can err in the player's favor.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we always try to,
Absolutely.
because we know the experience is a little rough right now anyway, so we don't want to make it worse.
Right.
So how will having the two servers affect guilds?
So your guild doesn't. So server transfers are not going to move your guild, but when the servers merge together, the guilds will all be on the same server, right? It's not going to ruin any of the guild influence or progress or achievements or anything like that. Like the guilds will just be intact. Guild name uniqueness is enforced across both realms, as is character names, circle names, war parties, all those things. That was one of the reasons we didn't bring up the second server immediately, is we wanted to make sure that we didn't have to go through any of the pain of deduping all the names and all the other non-unique things across the two shards. So yeah, everything should be good, come back together as if nothing happened to the player. Like they should just see a
Yeah.
lot more people that they hadn't seen before.
And chat is cross, right?
So you can actually send chat cross realm, like whispers, party chat, that kind of stuff. By default, it's not on, but you can always use like the @ symbol for the realm name afterwards. Like you can send tells from entity to Warhound to people if you'd like. You just say @ Warhound after the character name or whatever, and it'll send it over
Yeah.
there.
So you got to kind of get together with your guild, figure out, are you on entity or entity 2, Jabba or Jabba 2.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, and honestly, like, if you're playing in the guild, I would recommend everybody just tries to get to the same one. Once transfers enable up, it should be a lot easier that way.
Yeah. And then we've got new servers. Are there server first achievements?
There are absolutely server first achievements on the new servers. We decided that, well, I mean, it'd be more work to turn them off than it would be to just leave them on. So
Yeah, so
go
go get 'em.
nuts. There are a lot of server achievements on new realms. I can see like the population like going like really high over there now.
Let's see. And so there's a few questions about the login loop. I think we've addressed it, but since there are enough questions, let's just
Sure.
address it again.
Yeah. I mean,
We are fixing
anything in particular. Yeah. The most important thing is we at least feel like we identified every single problem with that loop, and we have fixes either in progress or already up or en route. So yeah, I mean, obviously, keep reporting issues. Don't take my word for it that we know everything that's going on. We try to stay up to date on all of the bugs and everything, but don't ever see a bug and not report it. It's very important that we get all those things to us. If nothing else, if someone else has already reported it, if 10 people report a bug, or 100 people report a bug, or 1,000 people report a bug, the visibility is very important. It helps us prioritize how many people are experiencing this, because there are always so many issues to fix that it's a prioritization game. So the more people something is affecting is always going to take higher precedence.
Yeah, and since we're on a live stream, let me announce a couple things that we're looking for feedback on.
Sure.
So the head of our operations group and customer service is curious to know if anyone is having trouble filing customer service tickets from Europe, because for some reason we're seeing a lot less European tickets than US tickets. We don't know why, because there's about the same amount of players. So if you're having that issue, let us know, because we want to get to the bottom of it. And then the second one is our engineering team has seen a few examples of people having the launcher crash, and we think we know why. We're just trying to get a sense of how big it is, because the data we have says that it's not happening to too many people. But so if you're having a launcher crash, if you can, let us know, that's like tweeting at WildStar Ops, sending in a customer service ticket, or just letting any of us know on the forums or on Twitter, Reddit, that sort of thing. Both of those things will be helpful. I mean, when I ask for these things, it's because an executive has sent an email to us saying, hey, can you research this? So this is like stuff that a lot of people are looking at right now. And then I think that's it for the questions, and we do need to get going. So I want to thank you guys so much for your patience. Please bear with us. We're getting through this. We're working really hard. These problems are all going to get solved.
Absolutely.
And we're super passionate about this game. We're super passionate about the product, and we love the fact that so many people have come in and are so excited.
Yeah, I mean, I think again, right, for everyone that's on this side here at Carbine, we couldn't be happier, right, about how many people have showed up, the people that are in there, how they're enjoying the new systems that we put in. All of that information is just super encouraging for WildStar's future. I am super excited personally just to see all of these new faces and how excited they are to get in and try it out. And, we're just going to keep hammering away in it and making sure that we've got a great product for you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're finding it frustrating, we totally understand. Come back next week.
No, it is a really important thing. There was a really cool post on Reddit that I was going through that was like, the quality of the game is not equal to the quality of the launch. MMO launches are very, very difficult, but everybody just needs to realize that MMOs are around for a very long time, and WildStar is a very, very good game. It's a very high quality game. So stick with us. We'll get all these issues fixed, and we'll be better tomorrow. We'll be better the next day. It'll be a lot better next week.
Yeah. Sure. Well said. I can't say it any better than that. Thank you, Chad. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, everyone out there.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for the support. We really appreciate it. We will see you on the forums, on Twitter, on Reddit. Follow this channel for more information. We will see you soon. We're actually going to play the trailer just because the trailer is awesome. And it's what started this all off. Such an awesome piece. Have a great weekend, everybody. We will see you in-game and on the internets.
You try to break me